Well, thank y'all for being here. I thank Senators Scott and Lee for joining us here, along with my colleagues at the Freedom Caucus. And but it is great to see my friends. Look, I can't figure out which way the administration wants to have it. You got the director of the Office of Management and Budget who says that our plan wouldn't do anything for deficits or for debt. But then, out of the same mouth, they come out and say, we're cutting everything. Oh my gosh, right? Women and children all across the country are going to be suffering because of what we're cutting. Well, which is it, right? I mean, the truth is what we're doing is trying to address an actual problem, a problem that this administration, and frankly for too long, both sides of the aisle here in this building have refused to actually address, which is a massive spending problem, racking up debt, but more importantly, a spending problem that is empowering bureaucrats to the detriment of the American people. When I go home to Texas, not one person I represent comes up to me and says, will you please give more power to bureaucrats? Will you please give more regulations, give more control to the government to interfere with my life and my well-being? Not one. Not one of them ever comes up to me and says that. But yet, that's precisely what this administration wants to do. Increase taxes, increase regulations, and then say, oh, don't worry, we're reducing the debt over the next decade from 20 trillion to 17 trillion, which frankly isn't even exactly accurate. But they're saying that that's somehow a big win. My question for you guys in the press, do you care about the current state of the dollar, the current state of the country? I mean, are you going to go hold this administration responsible for completely destroying the economic health and the fiscal strength of this country? That's a question. You can hold us accountable too. But everybody goes to their corners and they say, they're cutting Medicare and Social Security. Well, as my friend from Arizona just said, we didn't say anything remotely close to that. We're talking about ensuring that we can protect Social Security retirement benefits and Medicare benefits. But I can tell you who's not. It's my Democratic colleagues who in 8 years will ensure that Medicare and Social Security are completely without funds. Because they don't want to actually address the truth. They don't want to look at the American people and speak the truth. We're going to speak the truth to, frankly, both sides of the aisle. It is time for this country to actually have leadership in this town that wants to change it, to do what we actually said we would do, to actually come forward with a plan to cut spending, to reduce the deficit, to save $3 trillion plus over a decade. No, we're not going to balance the budget on the back of discretionary spending. Everybody knows, everybody can do math. But what we can do is prove to the American people that before we're going to have a conversation about mandatory spending, we're not going to be sending money to pro-prostitution LGBTQ groups in Colombia. Because that's what you're doing with your tax dollars right now, right? You've got the Department of Defense spokesperson standing up at the microphone yesterday talking about how one of their number one foreign policy objectives is advancing LGBTQ. Do you think China gives a rat's rear end about that? While they're building up their Navy and they want to kick our butts? No, they don't. And I can promise you no Texan is going around going, man, I really hope that's your number one foreign policy goal. We're here to actually do the work of the American people. We're put forwarding a budget that would actually cut spending, get us on a step forward to balance, and do so responsibly, undermining the woke, weaponized government that's undermining the American people. Last point I'll make is what Senator Lee talked about, is economic growth. You cannot grow this country if you continue to pass regulations and to subsidize the very things that are undermining economic growth. You can't do it. You can't do it. I was just meeting with a formerly august oil and gas company in my office. Now they come in and the first thing they talk about for 10 minutes is green subsidies. I told them, can you make a single dollar on any of these things without federal subsidies? They all said no. We are destroying the economic strength of this country and our core strength of national security by having strong energy with ridiculous subsidies undermining economic growth. You want 3 and 4% economic growth to balance this budget and to make this country great again? Get rid of the subsidies that are subsidizing unreliable energy and making us second to China. That will actually make this country stronger. And with that, I will yield to the gentlelady from Colorado.